So, when you think about the end of the world, what comes to mind? It's usually something, you know, big and dramatic.
Oh, absolutely. The blockbuster scenarios.
Yeah.
A massive asteroid, maybe.
Right. An asteroid or an uncontrolled AI or
Hmm.
just the classic global conflict. But what if the biggest threat wasn't something loud and violent? What if it's something we made ourselves? Something
Mm.
silent that's probably in this room with you right now.
And that's exactly where this deep dive is headed. We're looking at sources that are, frankly, painting a very concerning picture. The idea that humanity might be stumbling towards a state of collective infertility.
And not in some far off sci fi future. We're talking maybe the next 20, 30 years if these trends continue.
Exactly.
So, our mission today is to really get to grips with this potential biological crisis. And the source of it all, it isn't a virus, it's not a natural disaster.
No, it's chemical pollution, specifically a group of compounds called endocrine disruptors, EDCs.
Fake biological signals, essentially.
That's a perfect way to describe them. And the urgency here is it's just off the charts. This isn't just a general health concern. This is a genuine existential risk. So we need to unpack why our modern world, our modern pollution, is so uniquely good at, well, destroying our ability to reproduce.
Okay, so let's start there because the first question I think anyone listening would have is pollution isn't new, right? We've had the Industrial Revolution, smog, all of that. Why is this suddenly becoming so critical now?
It really boils down to chemistry.
Yeah.
It's the type of pollution. The source material makes this really critical distinction between, say, historical pollutants, soot, heavy metals, and the complex synthetic materials we're surrounded by today.
So old pollution might make you sick, but it wouldn't necessarily, hijack your hormones?
Precisely. The chemical cocktail we live in now is fundamentally, as the sources say, stronger and more dangerous. And that's because many of these chemicals are designed to be biologically active. They mess things up on a hormonal level.
So it's not just collateral damage anymore. It's a targeted invasion of our most basic biological functions.
It is. EDCs, by definition, mimic or block our natural hormones. They don't just, chip away at your health. They specifically go after the endocrine system.
And that system controls everything, basically. Metabolism, mood.
And, crucially, reproduction.
Okay, so let's get into the proof, the hard numbers. Because the claims are huge. What are the stats actually telling us about fertility right now?
The big one, the one that really stands out, is male fertility, globally.
Right.
The data synthesized in this research shows that sperm concentration,
Which is just the density of sperm.
exactly, that has dropped by over 50% in the last 40 years.
50%.
Over half. So the average man today has basically half the reproductive capacity of his grandfather.
That's a staggering biological decline in just, 2 generations?
Yeah.
But fertility isn't just about the number of sperm, is it? It's also about the quality, right?
That's the other key part of the puzzle. It's not just the count. The sources are very clear on this. Alongside that drop in numbers, we're seeing a really significant decline in motility.
Their ability to swim.
Their ability to swim effectively, yes.
Yeah.
So you have fewer sperm, and the ones that are there are often less capable of actually doing their job.
And I'm guessing this trend isn't slowing down.
It seems to be accelerating, particularly in industrialized nations. And
Yeah.
if you draw that line forward, the warnings from scientists in these sources are dire. They say if this continues, fertility levels could effectively hit zero,
Zero.
maybe in 20 to 40 years.
And zero fertility isn't just a health problem. It's the end of our ability to replace ourselves as a species. The system just fails.
That's why it shifts from being a health crisis to an existential one. This could all play out within the lifespan of children being born today.
Okay, so
Yeah.
how? How are these chemicals, which are everywhere, how are they so good at hijacking our biology?
Let's focus on the main vehicle mentioned in the source material, which is plastic.
We live in a plastic world.
We do. But the danger isn't necessarily the plastic bottle itself. It's the tiny, invisible things it releases. The additives, the things that break off.
So we're not just talking about microplastics, the little physical bits. We're talking about chemical ghosts that leach out.
Exactly. Things like phthalates, which make plastic soft and flexible, or
Yeah.
BPA, which is used in harder plastics. These are some of the most potent EDCs we're exposed to every single day.
And this is where the sources describe it as a kind of biological deception, a trick. These chemicals act like fake hormones. How does that actually work inside the body?
The best analogy is a lock and a key. Your cells have receptors, the locks, and they're designed to only open for specific keys, like your natural hormones, estrogen, or testosterone.
Okay, makes sense.
Well, EDCs, because their molecular shape is just similar enough, they act like faulty keys.
A faulty key that can either jam the lock so the real key can't get in, or it opens it at the wrong time.
That's a great way of putting it. They do both. Something like BPA, for example, is a powerful estrogen mimic. It acts like a fake estrogen key, unlocking those receptors and causing chaos.
So the body gets a fake signal.
A powerful fake signal, especially during development in the womb. This can lead to all sorts of reproductive problems later in life.
And what about the other ones, like phthalates? Do they do the same thing?
They work a bit differently. They tend to be anti-androgens. So instead of mimicking a hormone, they block or suppress male hormones like testosterone.
So one is sending a fake on signal, the other is hitting the off switch.
Exactly. But the end result is the same. The whole reproductive system gets messed up. The body's wiring is essentially short-circuited by these chemicals.
And it all comes back to this incredible biological mismatch. Our bodies have evolved over millions of years, but this chemical onslaught is, what, less than a century old?
Right. Evolution has not prepared us for this. The human body literally does not know how to defend itself against this kind of targeted chemical attack. And that's especially true for a developing fetus, whose entire hormonal architecture is being built while being exposed to these chemicals from our food containers, our furniture, our clothes.
It's terrifying. Okay, let's pivot a bit from the biology to the bigger picture. The societal implications. The sources talk about a fundamental irony here.
It's a deeply unsettling one. We spend fortunes trying to defend ourselves from asteroids or preparing for the next pandemic, and yet the sources suggest humanity might just fade away. Not with a bang, without war or a virus.
The hormonal end of the world, as they put it.
Yeah. It's just from the everyday stuff we created for convenience.
It's a silent extinction. It's not something that causes immediate death, so we don't see it as an urgent threat. It just prevents the next generation from existing.
Which is why one source calls it a very strange and scary thing. Maybe the most dangerous thing we are not paying attention to.
And that scale, that leads to the next big point. Individual action. We're always told, use a glass bottle instead of plastic. Don't microwave that container.
And that's all well and good. But the sources are pretty blunt about this. It's not enough.
Wait, so is that effort useless? Does it help at all?
It's better than nothing on a personal level. But it can't solve a systemic contamination problem. It's like trying to empty the ocean with a teaspoon. Even if you are meticulously careful, the air you're breathing is full of particles. The dust in your home is full of them. It's in the global food chain.
The problem is just bigger than us.
That's the sobering conclusion. Yeah.
Which makes this a massive policy challenge then. If individual consumer choice isn't the answer, the solution has to come from the top down.
It has to. It has to be about tackling the problem at the source, at the chemical plants, in the manufacturing process. The consensus from the researchers is stark. Governments and corporations have to intervene. Otherwise, we might really cross that point of no return.
And this really points to a huge failure in how we regulate things, right? We usually demand absolute proof of harm over decades before we ban a chemical.
But by the time you have that undeniable proof,
the damage is already done. The decline might be irreversible.
That's the essence of the point of no return. If our collective ability to reproduce falls below a certain threshold, it might be impossible to recover. The only way to pull back from that cliff is a massive, immediate global intervention.
So, wrapping this all up, what does this mean for you listening to this? The takeaway seems to be that the biggest threat we face might not be a soldier or a virus. It's in our food packaging. It's in our clothes. It's the very fabric of our convenient modern world.
The future of our species could literally depend on how we regulate a plastic factory.
A strange, silent, hormonal apocalypse.
And that brings us to one last, final thought to leave you with. A provocation. If this problem is now so systemic that it requires this massive sweeping intervention, if we have to fundamentally rethink global manufacturing and sacrifice some convenience, some profit, just to ensure we can continue to exist, then you have to ask yourself, what is the true definition of progress? Are we really progressing if the very things we create are systematically dismantling our ability to have a future? That's something worth thinking about.
A very profound thought to end on. Go forth and digest this, and maybe look at that cheap plastic product a little differently next time. We'll see you for the next deep dive.